Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily Manchester United Podcast. I'm your host for this evening, Niall Hannigan, and I'm delighted to be joined by Tom Cairns from the United Podcast. Tom, how are you?
Hello, Niall. Hello, Rob. And hello to everyone. Yes. And of course, me and Niall are somewhat, not overjoyed, but taking something positive from the game against Everton on Saturday, more than we had hoped. Yep. But hopefully we can carry that through into Wednesday at Old Trafford against Rob's Ipswich side, who have not exactly been in the best of form at the moment, it's safe to say.
Exactly, and yes, as Tom mentioned, this is a crossover episode coming to you a bit earlier in the week this time. But yeah, Rob, delighted to see you again. How's things? How are you getting on?
So I'm probably in a bit of a worse position than I was last time I sat down and spoke to you.
You were a bit too happy the last time, yeah.
Yeah, I think that came at quite a good time for us, the last game, really. And we got all the pressure lifted off us because it was Amarim's first game as well. And everyone forgot we were playing in it, really. That everyone was just talking about him all week. So things that, particularly the last sort of a month to 6 weeks sort of spell, has not gone very well at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a bit like the prodigal son had arrived when Amarim came through the door that week, and then it obviously didn't turn out too well for him with Ed Sheeran kind of interrupting his interview and everything at the end. So there was plenty of stuff to unpack there. But I'll start with yourself, Rob. You know, coming off that game before Christmas around end of November time, how did you think that went? Because Ipswich were all over United.
Yeah, so it was disappointing to not win the game, really, I thought, from the way it played out, that was a game that there was the opportunity there to go and get 3 points. And although we played very well, and like I say, we're on top for long periods, that after switching off at the start of the game, going 1-0 down, from that point on, we sort of controlled it from there on. That it was disappointing to not kick on and go and get the winner, because that was a big chance there to get 3 points on the board, which are few and far between when you're down the bottom. And it felt like an opportunity missed at the time. And then as it's gone on since then, we've won, I think, 2 more games since then. Might even have been 1. I can't remember how it fit in compared to the other ones. But so you look back on it now, as even realize how big of a missed opportunity it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because obviously, Tom, we had a brilliant start with a goal probably after 20, 30 seconds. We were like, yes, Ruben's tactics are working. We've turned a corner, and then obviously Ipswich get on top for the rest of the game and score a brilliant goal as well. But yeah, how did you kind of find that game coming up against the Ipswich for the first time in a long time?
I didn't see too much of the game, but listening to it on the radio, it sounded like United were in their stride for the first 10 minutes before Ipswich got their act together. And yes, like you say, the goal that I think it was Hutchison that scored for Ipswich in that game was a wonderful strike, absolutely brilliant. Top quality, yeah. But yeah, like what Rob says, I'm surprised that Ipswich didn't go and win it, really, considering that wins have been, have been hard to come by for them all season. And I think in any game like that, even if against Man United or against Chelsea that they've won against this season, Tottenham away, which they've also won, you've got to go and take these chances. And unfortunately, Ipswich have found themselves in a rather desperate situation to just be chasing games now between in the next 3 months.
Absolutely, yeah. And I suppose you mentioned after that, Rob, that probably just another couple of wins after. And I was actually at the Spurs game, Spurs Ipswich. I got tickets because I'm based in London at the moment, so I was singing Rory Delap or Liam Delap, ole ole, the whole way home after him getting the winner against Spurs. But what's it been like recently? I suppose it's been tough going, and I'd say we've probably had a lot of shared sentiments of our teams over the last few months.
Yeah, the Newcastle game where we lost 4-0 at home has been a real sort of like turning point for the season, really. That we have had some good results since then. So we beat Chelsea since that game, good point away at Fulham. Villa won the other week, was another good result. But we'd always sort of had, our main point was that we don't concede as many goals as the other teams down there. That has always been our point. We had much, like, our goal difference wasn't very good in comparison because we never scored, but you always, like, we were strong at the back. We maybe gave some soft goals away, but we conceded like 10 less goals than Wolves at that point in the season already. And then the Newcastle game, 1-0 down in 30 seconds, went on to lose 4-0, could have easily been more. That felt like that's been a real big sort of pivot point. And so now it's literally to the point where we have conceded the exact same amount of goals as Wolves. when we were laughing at them at the start of the year, saying they can't stay up. Nobody concedes that many goals and stays up. And we're now back level with them. So we've had some heavy defeats in there. So 4 Newcastle, 4 at Spurs last weekend, 4 against Liverpool, 6 against Man City. That these games have started to creep in as we got towards Christmas and now the other side of the new year, that they weren't there before. And we're so low on confidence at the moment that you thought the Villa result, and we had a good win against Coventry in the Cup. You thought those 2 back-to-back was going to be sort of the positive turning point, that we go and kick on a run. And didn't play badly against Spurs, but again, it was another game where the opportunity was there to go and get 3 points, and we conceded 4 pretty poor goals from a defensive point of view. I mean, 10 minutes into the game, we'd had we could have been 2-0 up easily with the chances we'd had first 10 minutes. And then 20 minutes in, we're 2-0 down. And that's that's exactly sort of what we're doing wrong, really. And so the last 6 weeks or so, from Christmas, almost 2 months or so, from Christmas until now, has been a really bad period where a lot of big games have come and gone and some haven't been taken. And the sort of games you'd almost see as 3 hits, you don't expect anything from us, have stopped being positive performances to take forward and just been pretty embarrassing defeats. Something needs to change, definitely.
Yeah, interesting to see. We'll get on to that a bit later, I suppose. But similar for yourself, Tom. I mean, obviously, we discuss it quite a lot here on the United podcast about our troubles at the moment, I suppose. But you were on yesterday with Kieran after the Everton game. What's it been like over the last 48 hours or so?
Not a lot has changed involving United, I would say. But touching on about what Rob said about Ipswich's performance against Tottenham, it was a weird game because they had so many shots in the match, believe it or not, did Ipswich. They're not clinical enough on goal. And I remember when I went to see them play against Brighton, they just looked second best overall, even though in the first half it was kind of level pegging in terms of possession-wise, but not a lot of chances. In the second half, it was just completely all Brighton. And now we're beginning to see that Ipswich have just got far too many weaknesses at the moment. And I think that's something that United will need to exploit going into the match on Wednesday. If they go into the match in a similar way to how they did against Southampton, which saw United go a goal down and then leaving it late to get 3 goals, then we could well be in for a long evening again.
Absolutely. And we'll get on to that a bit later on. But we'll take a quick break here and we're back with a bit more coverage of the upcoming match at the weekend.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
You mentioned, Rob, that something has to change. Is that the sentiment at the moment around the Ipswich fans, and is that particularly around Kieran McKenna, or where do you kind of stand in that conversation?
No, I think it's just something on the pitch has to change, definitely. There's not even the slightest discussion about McKenna, as far as I'm aware of anyway, and that I'd argue against it. He's got more than enough credit in the bank for whatever challenges come across. Like, it would have to be the sort of situation at Luton at the moment where you're on the face of back-to-back relegations before it even become a possibility to consider. So I always felt that I never think he'll be sacked. I think the only way he leaves the club is if he moves on somewhere else by his own choice, I think. But something needs to change on the pitch, whether that's him, whether that's something he does with setting the team up, whether that's something the players do by just sort of tweaking their game slightly and making the most of it. But I don't know. It's just at the moment, it's just like I say that it's. The praise was the defensive side of things. We weren't leaking loads of goals. Yes, some guys we were throwing away silly goals, and that's where the points were coming from. But we weren't looking wide open at the back. But now it just looks like it's almost like they're not talking to each other when they're defending a lot of the time now. That like the first Spurs goal, you've got O'Shea and Godfrey are standing within half a yard of each other doing the exact same thing. It's like they're both sort of just standing next to each other, pointing in different directions. Well, no one's actually making an effort to go and close Son down. He picks his ball across out of it. It's just things like that. It just looks so open at the back. It's like, and that is, as much as I hate to criticise McKenna, that is partly his doing, because he likes to rotate the changes at the back, which limits partnerships. I mean, Greaves and O'Shea have fairly nailed themselves down now to play together all the time, but the right-hand side changes all the time. Davis has been in and out with little various knocks recently, here and there. That like it's very rare that we go 2 games in a row with the same defensive personnel on the pitch, which just makes it so difficult to maintain the relationships and sort of grow the ones that are there. That when we had that little run November time, we put a few good results together. It's because we basically played the Championship back 4 who all knew each other, they knew the strengths and weaknesses, they knew where to be to cover each other when if they stepped out of position. That we just don't have that at the moment, because we're making 2 or 3 defensive changes week on week, which is a big part of the problem. As we repeat that point a lot on our pod.
Yeah, there's a lot to say for that in terms of continuity and players being used to each other. I suppose, Tom, that kind of happened quite a lot at United as well, and it's funny kind of listening to Rob that a lot of the same things are echoing in my ears around what we've been saying at the United pod as well, about something needs to change on the pitch, whether it's an attitude, whether it's a system thing, whether it's a personnel thing. But yeah, can you kind of put your finger on what you think it is over the last few months, or is it still a bit of an unknown?
Well, I stand by the fact that it's what's going on internally within the football club that is contributing to how the players have been performing on the pitch. It's interesting that Rob has mentioned about the lack of continuity in the back line for Ipswich, because over United, bar the injuries, we've tend to have a good continuity with the back 3, if you like, because they know how to play in the system of which Amarim is setting them out to do. It's just there's problems that both sides have got, but in like different areas. What I wanted to ask Rob about actually is, where exactly are the weaknesses within that Ipswich team? What positions do you think need improving within that squad if you're going to say get a good 10 or 20 goals between, you know, certain players within the team? Where is it for you?
I think in terms of improve, it's the midfield more than that. The players we have in attack are capable of scoring goals. They're just not, for whatever reason, whether it's confidence or whatever. Delap's obviously doing very well, but we've got very good options for the where we're at in the table compared to teams around us. Our options who play in that 3 behind him are very good. There's just a lot of them are not hitting the strides, or if they are playing well, they're not scoring goals, and that's where the problem is that it's all coming through Delap. But the big issue we have, that again, something we've said on our pod all season, we couldn't believe it wasn't a priority in January. Like we barely even looked. There was like tentative links to Nemanja Matic, and that was pretty much it for the entire window. But Morsey and Phillips are effectively the same player in how they play, so you can't play them together. We've got Cayuste, who came into the team about November, and that coincided with our good run. He is a ball-carrying midfielder. He's calm under pressure. He helps us get out from defence, build an attack, so we're not just punting it long to the lap every time. But he is the only one we've got at the club who's that build. And he has to come off, because he works so hard, he has to come off 75, 80 minutes every game. And then same with Delap. They work so hard, they come off for 10, 15 minutes to go every week. And we offer nothing when they're off the pitch. We'll say the goal threat goes with Delap coming off the pitch, and then we struggle to even put attacks together because we've got 4 or 5 defenders and then 2 defensive midfielders playing. That it seems like such an obvious problem to us, but somehow it's not even been looked at. That so we had Cayuste limping off on Saturday as well. So if he's out for I don't know how long, so the club never talk about this sort of stuff with injuries. It's quite frustrating when you do a podcast and are trying to keep people up to date on news. But yeah, we don't know how long that is. But the idea of it being Phillips and Morsey for an extended period of time, I think we're just going to get overrun every single week. And I can't believe it wasn't addressed in January. But I don't know if that we're almost struggling. It's building the attacks a lot of time. That's the problem. It's why Spurs are weirdly promising despite the result, because we made 17 shots and we had a lot of the ball, built some attacks. So that was sort of almost felt the first step to improvement. But even though we lost 4-1, that was a strange game like that. But the midfield's been we've been overrun in 90% of games this year, and we're doing our best to address it with what we got. But I can't believe we didn't go and try and solve it in January.
Yeah, and I think it's a similar story for us, to be honest. I think since we've gone to that 2 midfield with the new system, we don't have enough personnel, and we probably don't have the right personnel to be able to deal with that. With the majority of the teams playing 3 in midfield, we seem to be getting overrun in midfield quite a lot. And it's funny that you mentioned about actually, being able to provide enough chances for the likes of Delap and your attacking players. Probably similar for us as well, where a lot of people give a lot of criticism to Xerxes and Hoyland, but in terms of the service they're getting is very limited, and can be quite forced at times in terms of long kind of balls going up to them, and very rarely kind of having sustained pressure, I suppose, in the attack. So that's something probably that both teams are struggling with. So I'm kind of interested to see how that's going to go. But we'll take another quick break here, and I'll be back with, from both sides of the fence, how we think we're going to get on at the weekend.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Tom, I'll come to you first here. What's your thoughts going into the weekend? I mean, it hasn't been the best of times for us. We're both teams kind of struggling for confidence. We seem to kind of up the ante for the last 20 minutes against Everton. Can we carry that into the weekend?
I think you mean game week, because we are playing on the Wednesday night, aren't we? So,
yeah.
But anyway, answering your question, the problem with Manchester United right now is we have been struggling for goals in the first half of matches. I mean, I'd love to find out now how many goals we've scored in the last 16 matches or so when we've scored in the first half, because I can tell you it is few and far between. So that could be Ipswich's chance to just give United a bit of a game for it, because if they can go into it with this attitude where they can actually put together a string of chances and put them away, it's going to give United a real job of it in the second half, perhaps similar to what it was against Everton.
And what about yourself, Rob? Obviously, are you going to take that confidence from the home match at the start of the season? Because everyone's kind of looking at United at the moment going, yeah, there's a big chance for 3 points there, never mind kind of scraping a point. So what's your thoughts, I suppose, going into Old Trafford?
Look, I say you're one of the few teams in the league who share our problems of you seem to be better away from home than you are on your own patch. And so, which you think would lend itself in our favour, that you don't.
We're just bad all the time, Rob. It doesn't matter where it is.
I say, particularly at the moment, your home form's not very good, and we tend to play better as the away side, almost when the pressure's off. You could say that we can just play however we want to. There's no pressure on us to go and set the standard, because that's what I think part of the problem was against Spurs. It's been a fairly unpopular opinion among our podcast, but I think part of the flaw was against Spurs is that we played the 5-back setup at Villa and we got a fantastic result. So even when we got 10 men, we kept it at 5. We didn't switch to a 4. We beat Spurs last time by playing a 5 and frustrating them. And then we went to a 4 and tried to be on the front foot and got done on the break twice in 20 minutes to go 2-0 down. That, for me, that was part of the problem. So it's been an unpopular opinion. So the lads are quite keen to see people have more of a go, and the defensive approach, particularly at home, isn't a great watch. But for me, it was a mistake to do that against Spurs, and I'll be interested to see now we're away again. Do we go back to that, or do we sort of see blood a little bit with the way United play recently and think if we do go at you and risk the potential of the counter-attack, that is that the way to go? Because it sounds absolutely mental to say out loud, but somehow going to Old Trafford is one of the easiest games we have left this season on paper, which is like unbelievable thing to say. But look at United's home form and some of the games we've got, that it's a massive opportunity. I said about the game at home being a missed opportunity. This is like you're somehow going into a game at Old Trafford thinking, if we lose this game, I'm gutted. Like, it should be a point minimum. Which is, again, it's a mental thing to say out loud, but that is the point we're at now. The weekend was terrible, not just because of our own result, but these are every team in the bottom half, apart from us three who were in the relegation zone, got at least a point. Most of them got wins. And we've lost so much ground in one weekend, which it was a shock weekend of results. And we've got to go get something out. We need to bounce back and say, look at our fixtures. We've got a lot of tough away games in there still. We're not very good at home. It's probably top 3 most winnable fixtures, which, like I say, is such a strange thing to say about going to Old Trafford, but it's a massive, massive opportunity for us. And I'm intrigued to see whether we try and play with confidence, like I say, stick with a 4, try and come out your cause, put you under pressure, or if we do go to the 5 and just sort of let United have the ball, you've got the pressure as the home side to set the standards and then see if we can spring the trap like we have done a few times away. It'll be an interesting watch for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think both teams might be allergic to the ball as well. So I think that United will want you to come at them and they can go on the counter-attack as well. So it'll be the battle of the back fives, I think, if Ipswich do go that way. But yeah, really interesting to hear about that and to hear the split decision going on and a bit of contention at the Ipswich podcast there in terms of tactics of how you go about games. But yeah, let's see how it goes in the game anyway. But Tom, in terms of what we've seen from United over the last couple of games, a couple of players coming back from injury as well, do you think we're going to see a similar lineup to the Everton game or a bit of kind of reshuffling, I suppose, as it's a midweek game?
Well, I think considering it's a midweek game, I'd love to see Chido Obi get a chance to start because Højlund has been dreadful, as we all know. So I think it's time to change tack, really, and give Obi a bit of a run of it. It's just put Xerxes behind him as well as Fernandes. I would probably say go with the exact same lineup as what you had against Everton, except Højlund coming off and putting Obi in his place, because I want to see how Obi gets on as a starter this time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I was kind of not surprised in a way, but I suppose he kind of had to go for it at the weekend. But he got a good few minutes, at the weekend against Everton. Yeah, it's very hard to tell, I suppose, what we can expect from him with such a short cameo. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if we can kind of blood a few of the youngsters, I suppose, into the next few games. Because Rob, it's interesting hearing you saying that this is probably one of the top 3 easiest games for Ipswich going into the season. I think from a United perspective as well, it's probably, looking at the Ipswich game, the only game that we could see is getting something out of for the last few games of the season. It's been that bad recently. But yeah, what about, I suppose you touched on the actual formation for the Ipswich team, but is there much rotation at the minute, or is it mainly the same team that's going out every week?
Well, there'll be changes at the back, almost nailed on. Twanzebe will come back in for Godfrey. That is
so discussed.
100% nailed on. So his suspension served up and Godfrey did not take his chance. He's getting a lot of the blame, which it's not all on him. Like I say, the way we set up left him exposed 1v1 a lot of the time, and he's not having a good year, but Son is still a top player. And he is good at, when he's on his day, he is very hard to get the ball off of, and you don't want to be left 1v1 against him. But he got his chance of a suspension. He is the sort of the next option behind Twanzebe, and 2 goals came down his side. He got booked and hooked at half time. So I can't see him staying in the team after that. With
it's a tough day at the office, that, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure
Twanzebe going back into his old team as well, so should be interesting.
Yeah, maybe a point to prove, but I don't know. I think he's fairly happy with his time at United, I suppose. They had a very good game, didn't he, against PSG in the Champions League that we like to reference as soon as we signed him. We went with someone who pocketed the bat there. We've signed for us in the Championship. But yeah, as everyone say, a club give us nothing. Like I say, it's a frustrating thing. But I'm pretty sure Kayuste is going to be injured, so we'll be forced into a change in midfield. It's just whether they go, do they throw Luongo in, who's had next to no time this year, but just to avoid playing Phillips and Morsey, which is 2 of the same player together and has not worked a lot of the times.
You're really not a fan of these 2 in midfield.
Not together.
One
to
or
be
the
fair
other.
to Calvin Phillips, I've given him all sorts of stick this year. I've said from as soon as when it was even linked, I said it's a stupid idea. I don't see the point of it. There's better options to do. And the last few weeks, his performances on a personal note have picked up, which is I'm hoping he can finish the season strong. But I don't like them two playing together. But we haven't really got a choice at the moment because Luongo's played about 3 games since coming. There's obviously feelings that he's not up to the level because he's always the one who doesn't even make the matchday squad or doesn't come on if he's on the bench. There's obviously a shared feeling there that he's not quite up to standard. So to throw him in for a start on a game like this would be a bit strange. But they're the 2 main spots really I think there'll be change. I'd like to see Broadhead come back into the attack as well because it's a mystery to me why he doesn't get more minutes because he looks sharp every time he plays. But he always seems to be the one who drops to the bench when there's a change, even if he's played the best the previous week. But then the main sort of it, the majority of it will be the same, I would say.
Fair. Okay, so it's that time of the evening. Tom, will come to you first. Score predictions for this game against Ipswich. What are we thinking?
I think Ipswich will go a goal up at half-time and then United to turn it around in the second half. And I think it'll be a 2-1 win for United.
2-1. Rob, what do you think?
I really do think we can beat you. I don't I really do think there's a result there because it's just whether we go. I've said that so many games this year that there is a result there. Go and get it. And Wolves away is the only time we've actually produced the performance to match. There have been so many, even say like Southampton at home. We billed it all week as the biggest game of the season, and lost it 2-1. That whenever there feels like this game's a weird blend, really, because on paper, going away to a Big Six team is a sort of no-pressure game we play well in. But like I said, it's actually a very important game and a realistic chance of points. So it's almost now just our territory of the games we like to bottle come into play. But I really say the heart says we can win, but the head says to bottle it and take a point. But I'll go with it. I'm on my own representing the podcast. I'll say we'll beat you 2-1.
Okay. I'll go somewhere in the middle. I think it'll be a draw. I'll go 1-1. But yeah, I don't have much confidence in them. But let's see how we get on anyway. Okay, so we have 2-1 for Ipswich, 2-1 for United, and a draw meeting in the middle. So we'll leave it there, guys. We'll look forward to the game. Rob, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Always nice to have someone over for the crossover.
Yeah, it's been good fun. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Tom, thank you very much for joining me. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.